All right, today we are cracking open a book called Cobol, An Introduction for Beginners, and we're basically trying to answer one big question. Is this thing a guide to a digital dinosaur, or is it a map to some hidden world that's secretly running our entire economy?
So the book gets right to the point, which is great. It asks the question that I bet is on your mind right now. Is Cobol a dead language? Is it just some ancient relic we should stick in a museum? This is really the first hurdle we got to clear, so let's dive in.
And right away, the author just flips this whole idea on its head. On one hand, you have the myth. Cobol is a digital fossil, totally irrelevant. But then there's the reality. And according to the book, the reality is that Cobol is the engine quietly running global finance. It's the thing that processes your paycheck, keeps track of your bank balance, and even manages your pension. Wild, right?
And that really brings us to the next big point the book hammers home: the sheer scale of all this. We're not talking about some niche, forgotten language here. We're talking about a foundational piece of, well, pretty much everything.
Just get a load of this number: 40 billion. The book says there are over 40 billion Cobol transactions running every single day. I mean, that's not a typo, it's just a staggering number. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around that amount of processing happening, completely out of sight.
So you might be wondering, where do those 40 million transactions even come from? Well, the book breaks it down. A huge chunk of it is from financial transactions. We're talking 90% of ATM transactions and an incredible 96% of all ATM card swipes. So yeah, next time you pull cash out of a machine, you can pretty much bet you're talking to a Cobol system on the other end.
There's a quote from the author Alexei Bugarin that I think just perfectly sums this all up. He says to think of Cobol not as a fossil, but as bedrock. It's the foundation that all this modern stuff is built on. So its age isn't a weakness. It's actually proof of how strong and reliable it is. It's not a crumbling ruin. It's the solid ground underneath.
Okay, so the big question is why? Why did this language last when so many others faded away? Well, the book argues it was no accident. It all comes down to a really specific and honestly kind of brilliant design philosophy right from the start. And at the heart of that philosophy is the legendary Grace Hopper. Her vision was simple but powerful. Code should be easy to read, like almost as easy as reading plain English. This quote from her says it all. It's just easier to read subtract 35 from salary than a bunch of symbols. The goal wasn't to be clever, it was to be clear, especially for business folks who needed to understand what the code was actually doing. And that whole idea is literally baked right into the name. Cobol, Common Business-Oriented Language. I mean, it says it right there on the tin. Its entire reason for being was to handle business tasks using clear, English-like commands. It was never meant to do everything. It was designed to do one thing, business, and do it incredibly well.
So how does it enforce that clarity? Well, the book points to the program's structure itself. Every single Cobol program is built the same way, with these 4 mandatory parts or divisions. Think of it like a blueprint. You have to start with identification. Who are you? Then environment. Where are you? Then data. What stuff do you have to work with? And only then, at the very end, can you get to the procedure division. What are you actually going to do? It sounds rigid, and it is, but that's what makes the code so understandable, even decades later.
Okay, so given how structured this all is, how does the book actually teach it to someone who's a total beginner? Let's take a look at the path it lays out for you.
The first thing you need to know, and the book makes this super clear, is that it assumes you know absolutely nothing about programming. Zero. You don't need any background in Python or JavaScript or anything else. It really starts you from square one.
And the journey it takes you on is really logical. You start with the basics, the history and getting set up. Then you dive into the core of it, program structure, how to handle data. After that, it gets into the more practical stuff like logic, calculations, and working with files. And it all builds up to the really important part, connecting Cobol to modern systems and, actually building a career with it.
Which brings us to maybe the most important question of all, right? What's the point? Why learn Cobol now, with all the new flashy languages and frameworks out there? What's the actual career payoff?
Well, according to the book, the answer is pretty clear when you look at who's still using it. We're talking about the heavy hitters: banking, insurance, government, major airlines, and retailers. These aren't just little side projects. These are the core, mission-critical systems that these industries absolutely depend on.
And this is where the book offers a really key insight. When you hear the word modernization, you might think it means ripping out all the old Cobol code and starting from scratch. But that's not what's happening. It's way too risky and expensive.
Instead, modernization means integration. It means building new, modern websites and mobile apps that connect to that super reliable COBOL backend. And that's where the jobs are.
And just look at this. This is the real kicker. The book points out this huge talent gap. You've got all these critical systems running on COBOL, and the generation of programmers who built them are retiring. So demand is high. But the number of new people learning the skill, it's super low. And whenever you have high demand and low supply, well, that creates a pretty amazing opportunity for anyone willing to step in.
So, to wrap it all up, the main takeaway from COBOL, an introduction for beginners, is that the language isn't dead at all. It's just invisible. It's the hidden foundation of so much of our world. And if that's the case, then this book isn't just a textbook about an old language. It's more like a map to a massive hidden job market. So the only real question the book leaves you with is, are you ready to go explore it?